When I was young, I used to look at the sky and wonder, when will my future finally arrive? I grew up in a small town in China with no resources, no connections, and so many limitations that the future seemed reserved for others. For years, I waited for something extraordinary to happen. Then one day, I realized a simple yet powerful truth. The future never comes on its own. It's not something you find. It's something you build, even if no one else sees what you're doing. The horizon always moves forward, but the steps you take today are what truly matter. I remember when the idea of creating Alibaba first came to life. We had no money, no technology, no support, but we had one invaluable thing, a dream. Back then, the internet was practically non-existent in China. People laughed at our ambition, saying it was impossible to compete with international giants. Do you know what I did? I ignored the doubts. What matters is not the size of the challenge ahead, but the decision to take the first step. I told my team, if we don't start now, someone else will. And if someone is going to change the world, why not us? Many people wait for perfect conditions to begin, but perfection is a myth that paralyzes more than it inspires. When we founded Alibaba, internet connections were so slow that it took hours to load a single image. It was like trying to plant seeds in dry soil, hoping something would grow. But you know what? It's not about external conditions, it's about cultivating the right mindset. I've always believed that the seeds we plant today, even in difficult soil, are what shape tomorrow. Looking back, I realized the future was never something distant. It was always in the now, in every small act that seemed insignificant. Every failed job interview, every rejection I faced, and even every night I felt like a failure were pieces of the future I built with my own hands. I never let the fear of making mistakes stop me from taking action. As I like to say, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. The present is the only certainty you have. Every decision you make today, every step you take, is paving a path that no one else can see, but is waiting for you. There's no point in looking at the future as something magical that will come to save you. Everything you need to begin is already in your hands. True transformation happens the moment you choose to plant your seeds, even if the soil doesn't seem promising. Because one day, the future that once seemed impossible will simply be the present you worked to create. Many years ago, when we started Alibaba, the scene was complete chaos. China barely had access to the internet, and small businesses didn't know what e-commerce was. I remember sitting with my small team in a cramped apartment with no money, no technology, and no support from investors. The chaos was so overwhelming that anyone in their right mind would have given up. But you see, it was in that whirlwind of uncertainty that I realized something essential. Chaos is the birthplace of the greatest opportunities. While most people see disorder, entrepreneurs see possibilities. The story of how Singles' Day became the world's largest shopping event is a perfect example. At that time, e-commerce was far from popular in China. Many thought it was impossible to get people to shop online at scale. But in the middle of all that doubt, we saw a unique chance. We turned an obscure date into one of the most profitable days in retail history. Not because the conditions were perfect, but because we believed that the chaos of the present was fertile ground for something extraordinary. Chaos can be intimidating. When everything seems to be falling apart, it's natural to feel scared or to want to wait until the storm passes. But I've learned that movement is the only antidote to paralysis. It's like navigating a boat in the middle of a storm. You can't wait for the sea to calm down to row. You need to adapt, adjust the sails, and keep going. If not now, when? If not me, who? This phrase, which I've carried with me for years, reminds me that moments of uncertainty are invitations to act, not excuses to stop. I know it's tempting to want to change the world to fit your expectations, but let me share a truth. You can't control the chaos around you, but you can control how you react to it. If you want to catch the rabbit, as I like to say, don't try to change it. Change yourself. For years, we faced rejection, hardship, and scarcity. Instead of complaining, we adapted our vision, focus, and work to transform that situation into something extraordinary. In the end, chaos is an opportunity in disguise. It tests your resilience, challenges your creativity, and forces you out of your comfort zone. The greatest innovations and the most revolutionary ventures are born in times when everything seems lost. Because it's in these moments that those who dare to move gain an advantage. So what are you doing now while chaos tries to dictate the rules of the game? Because in the future, you'll look back and realize it was exactly in this chaos that the ground for your greatest achievements was prepared. At the beginning of my journey with Alibaba, I had a grand vision, but plans, honestly, almost none. Not because I didn't believe in the importance of planning, but because I learned a valuable lesson early on. The most brilliant plans in the world are useless without execution. When we were 18 people in a tiny apartment, we didn't spend hours crafting perfect strategies. Instead, we got to work with the tools we had. To me, real impact comes from actions, not intentions. I remember an investor asking me, "Jack, how are you going to compete with giants like eBay?" At that moment, I didn't have the perfect answer, but I knew we had to start acting before they noticed us. Our difference was the courage to do, even without knowing all the details. This is something the world forgets. Planning is comfortable, while doing is risky. But it's the risk of action that separates dreamers from doers. I often say that in this world there are many intelligent people, but they lose because they spend too much time planning. It's like an athlete who trains but never competes. What builds your future is not how well you imagine the path, but your willingness to put one foot in front of the other, even without knowing what's ahead. When we launched Alibaba, we weren't the best in technology or business. However, we were the most willing to learn as we did. This philosophy applies to every aspect of life. Think of something you want to achieve, a business, a new skill, or a big dream. How many times have you delayed starting because you thought you weren't ready? The truth is you'll never be fully prepared, and that doesn't matter. What truly makes the difference is taking the first step. Even a small one initiates transformation. Don't let your plans define you. Let your daily actions do that. The world moves fast, and those stuck in theory miss their chance to be in the game. Acting doesn't always lead to immediate success, but inaction guarantees stagnation. Every move, no matter how small, builds something. Because in the end, you won't be remembered for what you planned to do, but for what you had the courage to accomplish. And the only thing left to decide is, what will you do today, even if the plan isn't perfect? How often do we say, "I'll start when I'm ready"? I've heard it from countless people, friends, employees, even young entrepreneurs seeking advice. But let me tell you a secret, the world won't wait for you. When we started Alibaba, nothing was ready. The internet in China was slow and unreliable. Businesses didn't trust the concept of e-commerce, and yet, we didn't wait. We acted. The idea of waiting for the perfect moment is just an illusion. The perfect time is now, even if it feels messy and imperfect. I remember one of my first job interviews. It was with KFC when they opened in my hometown. They hired 23 people and rejected one. Me. I wasn't ready by their standards, but I didn't let that stop me. Instead of waiting for someone else to give me a chance, I realized I had to create my own opportunity. If you're waiting to be ready, you might spend your entire life waiting. Progress only happens when you take the leap, no matter how unprepared you feel. There's a concept I've always believed in. Imperfection is better than hesitation. Many people lose years overthinking and refining their plans. But let me ask you this, what's more powerful? A flawless plan on paper or a flawed action in reality? The latter, always. When we launched Alibaba, we made countless mistakes. Yet every mistake taught us something new, something we couldn't have learned by waiting on the sidelines. The willingness to act, even without full certainty, is what drives success. When you look at the world's most successful individuals, you'll notice one thing. They didn't wait to feel ready. They started, stumbled, and kept going. Whether you want to build a business, improve yourself, or learn a new skill, the key is starting. You'll never be fully ready, but you'll always learn and adapt as you go. Life rewards action, not waiting. The moment you break free from the cycle of hesitation, you'll realize how much you've been holding yourself back. There's no better time coming. There's just now, and the decisions you make today will echo far into your future. So don't wait for the world to align with your plans. The time to act is today, even if the conditions aren't perfect. Because the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the choice to begin. If I had let my fear of failure dictate my actions, Alibaba wouldn't exist today. Failure has been a constant companion in my life. I failed my university entrance exams twice, got rejected from Harvard 10 times, and was the only applicant rejected by KFC. But here's what I've learned. Failure is not the end. It's a teacher, a stepping stone, a bridge to something better. The real enemy isn't failure itself. It's the fear of it that stops you from trying. When we started Alibaba, there were countless reasons to be afraid. No one believed in e-commerce, and many said our idea was destined to fail. Investors turned us down repeatedly, saying, "This will never work in China." But instead of letting those rejections paralyze us, we treated them as opportunities to improve. Failure is not a punishment, it's feedback. It's life's way of showing you what doesn't work, so you can find what does. Fear of failure keeps so many people stuck in the same place. They dream big, but never act because they're terrified of making mistakes. But let me tell you this, mistakes are inevitable. No one succeeds without failing along the way. What sets successful people apart is their ability to see failure as a lesson, not a verdict. As I like to say, when you're poor, if you have a dream, you never feel poor. Failure can't defeat you unless you let go of your dream. Think about every successful entrepreneur or leader you admire. Behind every achievement lies a series of failures they had to overcome. These failures shaped them, made them stronger, and taught them resilience. At Alibaba, every mistake we made brought us closer to where we are today. The key is not to avoid failure, but to embrace it and keep moving forward. Once you understand that failure is not the enemy, your perspective on life changes. You stop worrying about what could go wrong and start focusing on what could go right. Every failure is a step closer to your goal. So don't let the fear of failing keep you from trying. The only true failure is giving up before you've even started. Success isn't built under bright lights. It's built in the quiet moments when no one is paying attention. I often tell people that the decisions you make when you're alone, when no one is watching, are what define your future. When I was rejected from Harvard for the 10th time, no one saw me sitting at home, questioning my abilities. But instead of giving up, I used that time to prepare myself for the next challenge. Success is created in the shadows, not on the stage. During the early days of Alibaba, my team and I worked tirelessly without recognition. There were no headlines, no investors, and no support. Yet those invisible hours we spent solving problems, making plans, and executing small actions are what built the foundation of Alibaba's success. People often see the results but rarely acknowledge the effort behind the scenes. The truth is, the small daily choices you make when no one is looking determine how far you'll go. It's easy to show up when there's an audience, but the real work happens in private. Think about an athlete training before the world sees their performance, or an artist creating before anyone views their masterpiece. The unseen effort is what leads to visible success. That's why I always remind myself and my team, focus on what you can control now, not on the recognition you hope to receive later. If you want to succeed, ask yourself, what are you doing when no one is watching? Are you preparing, learning, and taking action? Or are you waiting for motivation to strike? Motivation is fleeting, but discipline, the kind you practice in private, is what builds momentum. Whether you're improving your skills, developing a business, or pursuing a personal goal, the consistency of your invisible efforts will eventually shine through. In the end, the applause will come. But the real victory lies in knowing that you gave your best, even when no one was around to see it. Because success isn't about the moments when the world is watching. It's about the countless hours you spent building, growing, and learning in silence. When I first dreamed of building Alibaba, the vision was so big that it felt impossible. We were 18 people in a tiny apartment with no money, no connections, and no experience. The gap between where we were and where we wanted to be was overwhelming. But I learned something crucial during those days. No matter how big your dream is, the journey begins with one small, shaky step. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. I've met countless people who have incredible dreams, but they remain just that, dreams. Why? Because they never take action. They wait for the right moment, the perfect conditions, or absolute certainty. But let me tell you this, certainty never comes. I've always believed that taking imperfect action beats waiting for perfection every time. It's better to stumble forward than to stand still. When we launched Alibaba, we had no idea what would happen. We made mistakes, faced setbacks, and often doubted ourselves. But each step, no matter how uncertain, taught us something valuable. It reminded me of climbing a mountain. You don't focus on the summit, you focus on the next step. Each step brings you closer, even if the peak feels out of reach. The difference between dreamers and doers is simple. Doers act. They embrace discomfort, uncertainty, and failure. They know that the journey won't be perfect, but they trust that the process will lead them somewhere worthwhile. If I had waited for the perfect conditions to start Alibaba, we'd still be waiting today. Sometimes, you have to leap and trust that the ground will appear beneath your feet. Success doesn't require you to know everything. It requires you to start, to commit, and to keep going. The first step might be small, but it's the spark that ignites the journey. And one day when you look back, you'll realize that everything you built began with that single, bold decision to take the first step. Time is the most valuable resource you have, yet so many people waste it as if it's infinite. When I was a young teacher earning $12 a month, I didn't have money or resources, but I had time. I realized that how I use my time would determine everything else in my life. You can lose money and earn it back, but once time is gone, it's gone forever. That's why I often say, time is a currency, and how you spend it defines your future. When we started Alibaba, every minute counted. We worked long hours, not because we loved being busy, but because we knew the value of every moment. At that time, others doubted us, thinking we'd fail. But instead of wasting time on negativity or fear, we focused on creating, learning, and building. Time spent wisely compounds over the years, creating results far greater than you can imagine in the moment. Time isn't just about productivity, it's about priorities. What are you dedicating your time to? Are you investing it in activities that bring you closer to your goals? Or are you letting it slip away on distractions? When I see people scrolling endlessly on their phones or postponing important actions, I think they don't realize they're trading the most precious resource they'll ever have for nothing. I've met people who are busy but unproductive, filling their schedules with noise instead of value. True success comes from focusing on what matters, not just filling your calendar. For me, gratitude for time is what keeps me grounded. Each day, I remind myself that every minute is an opportunity to grow, create, or connect. Time is wealth, and the way you use it shapes the legacy you leave behind. In the end, the wealth of time isn't measured by how much you have, but by how well you use it. Each moment you spend building your dream, learning something new, or helping someone else is a step toward a future you can be proud of. Don't waste it waiting or worrying. The clock is ticking. How will you spend your wealth today? Great achievements are invisible at first. When we started Alibaba, no one believed in us. We were just a small team with a big dream in a world that wasn't ready for us. But I often told my team, what we build today will be the foundation for something extraordinary tomorrow. It's not easy to work in the present when no one sees your vision, but that's what separates those who succeed from those who only dream. Building for the future requires patience and persistence. Think of a farmer planting seeds. The work is hard, the progress is slow, and the results are invisible for a long time. Yet the farmer continues, trusting that one day the harvest will come. When we were building Alibaba, we faced countless challenges, from technological barriers to financial struggles. But we knew that every small action was like planting a seed for the future. People often want quick results, but true success doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of consistent effort, often without recognition or reward. I remember when we launched Alibaba, and for years it felt like no one noticed. But we didn't stop because we understood that building something meaningful takes time. The world only sees the finished product, but the foundation is built in silence. The most successful people I've met have one thing in common. They work on their dreams long before the world notices. They're not afraid to put in the effort, even when no one else believes in them. At Alibaba, we worked tirelessly in the present because we knew the future wouldn't wait for us. We built systems, relationships, and innovations that seemed small at the time, but became the backbone of our success. What you do today might feel insignificant, but it's the foundation for what's to come. Every effort, every decision, every step is building a future that others can only dream of. And one day, when the world finally notices, you'll look back and realize that everything you've achieved started with the unseen work you did today. When we started Alibaba, we had nothing. No money, no technology, no connections. I still remember those first meetings in my apartment, sitting on cheap chairs surrounded by uncertainty. It was humbling, but it taught me something invaluable: the power of starting small. Every great achievement begins with humility and a willingness to learn. Those early days shaped everything we are today. I often tell people that the greatest strength you can have when starting out is the ability to learn. I wasn't the smartest or most talented person in the room. In fact, I failed my university entrance exams twice and got rejected by Harvard 10 times. But I had the humility to keep going, to absorb knowledge from those around me, and to adapt. Success isn't about knowing everything. It's about being open to learning along the way. One of the most important lessons I learned in the beginning was to focus on people. At Alibaba, we prioritized our customers and employees above everything else. I used to say, customers first, employees second, shareholders third. Wall Street didn't like it, but it worked. Why? Because people are the foundation of any great endeavor. If you take care of them, success will follow. Starting from scratch also taught me the value of persistence. Nothing came easy. We faced rejection after rejection from investors who didn't believe in us. But those rejections only fueled our determination. Every no was an opportunity to improve, to refine our vision, and to prove them wrong. It's in the struggle that you build the resilience needed for long-term success. The early stages of any journey are never glamorous, but they are the most critical. They lay the groundwork for everything that comes after. If you embrace humility, stay committed to learning, and remain persistent in the face of challenges, you'll find that those humble beginnings become the foundation of something extraordinary. Doubt is something every entrepreneur faces. When I started Alibaba, doubt was everywhere. Investors doubted us, competitors ignored us, and even my closest friends thought I was wasting my time. But I learned an important truth. Doubt is inevitable, but it should never stop you from taking action. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting despite it. I remember vividly when we pitched Alibaba to investors in the early days. Most of them said, "This will never work." It would have been easy to believe them, to let their doubt become my own. But instead, I reminded myself and my team, if we don't try, we'll never know what's possible. Courage isn't about having all the answers. It's about moving forward even when you don't. Doubt often comes from uncertainty, and uncertainty can paralyze you if you let it. But I've learned that action is the antidote to doubt. When you're unsure, the worst thing you can do is stand still. Every small step you take, no matter how imperfect, builds confidence and creates momentum. Doubt only wins if you refuse to act. At Alibaba, we didn't wait for the perfect plan or the perfect moment. We acted with what we had, trusting that we would figure things out along the way. And do you know what happened? Each action brought us closer to our vision. It wasn't always smooth, but every mistake, every challenge became a lesson that propelled us forward. The courage to act in the face of doubt is what separates those who create from those who watch. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about choosing to act despite it. Because in the end, the only thing worse than failing is never trying at all. Every mountain is climbed one step at a time. This simple truth has guided me throughout my life. When we started Alibaba, the dream was massive, but the steps we took were small. We didn't try to do everything at once. Instead, we focused on taking consistent, deliberate actions every day. It's the small steps that build momentum and lead to extraordinary results. People often underestimate the power of small actions. They think success requires big, dramatic moves. But let me tell you something. Small, consistent efforts create the biggest impact over time. It's like planting seeds. Each small action might seem insignificant at first, but with time and care, it grows into something incredible. At Alibaba, every email sent, every idea tested, and every problem solved was a step toward our larger vision. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is the discipline to focus on daily improvement. It doesn't matter if the progress is tiny, what matters is consistency. I've seen people give up because they didn't see immediate results. But success is like building a wall. Each brick you lay adds to the structure. Eventually, you'll step back and realize you've built something extraordinary. At Alibaba, we turned small wins into bigger opportunities. When we succeeded in one area, we used that momentum to tackle the next challenge. Success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Even when the steps feel small or slow, they're still moving you forward. The key is to stay focused and keep going, no matter how insignificant the progress seems. In the end, big achievements are simply the result of countless small steps taken consistently over time. Every step matters, even the ones no one notices. Because when you look back, you'll see that each small action was a building block for something far greater than you imagined. Perfection is the greatest enemy of progress. I've met so many talented people who never achieve their dreams, not because they lack the skills, but because they're waiting to be perfect before they begin. Let me tell you something. You'll never be completely ready, and that's okay. When we started Alibaba, nothing about us was perfect. Our internet was slow, our resources were limited, and we made mistakes. But we started anyway, because starting is always better than standing still. I remember when we launched Alibaba's first website. It was far from flawless, and we knew it wasn't what we envisioned in the long run. But we didn't let that stop us. We took that imperfect beginning and built on it every single day. The truth is, perfection doesn't lead to action. Action leads to improvement. You have to embrace imperfection as part of the process. Think of it like learning to ride a bicycle. You'll wobble, fall, and maybe scrape your knees, but the only way to learn is by getting on the bike. Business, personal growth, or any achievement is the same. If you wait for the perfect conditions, you'll never begin. Starting, even with uncertainty, teaches you far more than waiting ever will. The fear of imperfection holds so many people back. They're worried about what others will think or that their work won't be good enough. But the truth is, no one starts at the top. Every successful person you admire once stood where you are now, nervous, unsure, but willing to take that first step. It's not about being perfect, it's about being brave enough to begin. In the end, perfection is an illusion. Progress happens through action, not flawless execution. So stop waiting. Start today, even if it's messy or incomplete. Because once you begin, you'll realize that the imperfections you feared were just stepping stones to something greater. What drives you to take action? Is it money, recognition, or something deeper? When we founded Alibaba, our goal wasn't just to build a company. It was to create opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs across the world. This sense of purpose fueled everything we did. It wasn't always easy, but knowing that our work served a greater cause kept us moving forward. Purpose gives your actions meaning. I've seen people chase success for the wrong reasons, only to feel empty when they achieve it. Purpose is what makes the journey worthwhile. At Alibaba, our purpose was simple but powerful: to empower small businesses to compete on a global scale. When you align your goals with a greater impact, the work becomes more than just a job, it becomes a mission. Acting with purpose also gives you resilience. Challenges and failures are inevitable, but a clear sense of why will keep you going when things get tough. I often told my team, if we focus on helping others, success will follow. And it did. Our commitment to our customers and employees created trust, loyalty, and long-term growth. Having a purpose doesn't mean your journey will be smooth, but it does mean your work will matter. Whether you're building a business, pursuing personal growth, or developing new skills, ask yourself, why are you doing this? A strong purpose will guide your decisions, keep you grounded, and give you the energy to keep moving forward. At the end of the day, success isn't just about what you achieve, it's about the impact you leave behind. Purpose transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary outcomes. So, whatever you do, make sure it's connected to something bigger than yourself, because that's what gives life and work their true meaning. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that success is never achieved alone. When we started Alibaba, we were a small team with big dreams. I told my team from the beginning, if we're going to succeed, we must think beyond ourselves. Building something meaningful requires collaboration, trust, and the willingness to lift others up along the way. In the early days, many people doubted our vision, but we didn't let that discourage us. Instead, we focused on working together, combining our strengths, and supporting each other through challenges. Success isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about creating an environment where everyone can contribute their best. Collaboration also requires humility. I've always believed that intelligence is important, but emotional intelligence, EQ, and love intelligence, LQ, are even more critical. At Alibaba, we prioritized relationships, customers first, employees second, shareholders third. By putting people first, we built a culture of trust and collaboration that became the foundation of our success. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking you have to do everything alone. But the truth is, no one achieves greatness by themselves. When you collaborate, you gain perspectives, skills, and ideas that you could never develop on your own. That's why I often say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In the end, the impact you create will always be bigger when you work with others. Collaboration isn't just about achieving your goals, it's about creating something that benefits everyone involved. So don't work just for yourself. Build partnerships, inspire trust, and create a legacy that extends far beyond your own success. The future doesn't just happen, it's built by what you do today. When we started Alibaba, we didn't know what the future would hold, but we knew one thing: the small actions we took each day were shaping it. Success isn't a sudden event. It's the result of consistent daily effort that compounds over time. I often told my team, if we plant the seeds today, the harvest will come tomorrow. This mindset kept us focused, even when progress felt slow. Every decision, every task, no matter how small, was an investment in our future. We weren't just working for the present. We were building something that would stand the test of time. The key is to stay committed to the process. Many people give up because they don't see immediate results. But success doesn't work that way. It's like planting a tree. You water it, nurture it, and wait. At first, it looks like nothing is happening, but eventually, it grows into something extraordinary. The actions you take today, even if they seem insignificant, are the roots of your future success. The most successful people I know understand this. They don't rely on luck or shortcuts. They focus on what they can do now, knowing that every step brings them closer to their goals. Whether it's learning a new skill, building a relationship, or solving a problem, the work you do today is what creates the opportunities of tomorrow. So ask yourself, what seeds are you planting today? Because the choices you make now will define the life you live in the future. Your actions today are not just for today, they are the foundation of everything you hope to achieve.
When Jack Ma stepped onto the stage, the room buzzed with anticipation. Known for his transformative insights and contagious energy, Jack Ma delivered yet another unforgettable session. He didn't just talk about success. He unraveled its essence, challenging every preconceived notion the audience might have held. With his characteristic mix of humor and profound wisdom, Jack Ma shared a message that felt like a wake-up call to anyone waiting for their perfect moment. Jack Ma began by addressing a truth we all face but rarely admit. The future we dream of never arrives on its own. Drawing from his humble beginnings, he described how waiting leads to missed opportunities and how action, even imperfect action, is the key to creating the future we want. His reflections on the chaos he faced while building Alibaba reminded us that some of the greatest opportunities are born in the most uncertain times. As he put it, if not now, when? If not me, who? Through powerful storytelling, Jack Ma painted a vivid picture of the perseverance it takes to succeed. He revealed how failure was his greatest teacher, from being rejected by Harvard 10 times to being the only candidate turned down by KFC. Yet instead of letting these setbacks define him, he turned them into stepping stones. When you're poor, if you have a dream, you never feel poor, he said, igniting hope in the hearts of everyone listening. One of the most striking moments was when Jack Ma emphasized the importance of action over planning. He shared how Alibaba was born not from perfect strategies but from relentless execution. "You are what you do, not what you plan to do," he declared, driving home the idea that progress comes from consistent effort, not theoretical perfection. He also touched on something many overlook: the role of purpose. For Jack Ma, success isn't just about individual gains. It's about creating impact. His commitment to helping small businesses and fostering collaboration became a blueprint for building something far greater than himself. "If you want to go far, go together," he reminded the audience, reinforcing the power of teamwork and shared vision. But Jack Ma's talk wasn't just about grand ideas. He brought the discussion back to practical, actionable advice. He encouraged everyone to take small steps, no matter how insignificant they seemed. Whether it's breaking the cycle of hesitation or embracing failure as part of the process, his message was clear. The seeds you plant today determine the future you'll harvest tomorrow. As the session ended, the audience was left with a deep sense of urgency and empowerment. Jack Ma had not only inspired them to dream, but also challenged them to act. The question lingering in the air was simple yet profound. What are you going to do today to create the future you want? As you reflect on everything shared today, ask yourself, what's stopping you from taking that first step? Jack Ma's journey reminds us that waiting for the perfect moment is the surest way to stay in place. Whether it's embracing chaos, acting amidst doubt, or learning from failure, the secret to success lies in starting, no matter how uncertain the path may seem. Now, it's time to put this knowledge into action. Take one small step toward your goal. Send that email, write that plan, make that call. Remember, every small action you take today is building the foundation of your future success. As Jack Ma said, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. Which part of Jack Ma's advice resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Revisit this video whenever you need a boost of motivation, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You might not find us again if you don't hit that subscribe button now. And don't forget to turn on notifications, so you're always ready to learn and grow. Finally, make sure to check out our next video. Speak 6 lines to yourself every morning for massive growth. Jack Ma, where we'll explore even more life-changing insights to help you reach your full potential.